Hello chess fans, today I want to teach you guys an easy counter for black against the Queen's Gambit that I think can work at all levels. And the thing I'm going to recommend is after d4, d5, c4, which is the Queen's Gambit, what I'm going to recommend is not e6, which blocks the bishop, or c6, which blocks the knight. I'm going to recommend the most simple move possible, which is to accept the gambit, which is d takes c4. And keep in mind, when we're accepting this gambit, we're not just going for the pawn. We're 100% willing to give the pawn back, but we're willing to do it on our terms so that black gets as much development as possible, as much central control as possible, and tries to equalize in the best way while simultaneously being as simple as possible for all of us to play. So here white has three moves, which I think you have to loosely know. So they have e4, they have e3, and knight f3. And against both e4 and e3, all we have to do is respond with e5, and the position should pretty much be equal. And knight f3 is a tricky one in which I'm going to recommend you play c5, but we'll get to that later in the video, and you can check the timestamps if you really only want to focus on one of these variations. So I'm going to start with the e4 variation. So after e4, as I said, we're going to go e5. And you might say, wait, why are we giving up a pawn so early in the game? The idea is, in other defenses, we really don't have both of our bishops open, but as you can see in this defense, we do. And so we're willing to give up the pawn back immediately because, okay, if they take it, after takes, here black is just better because white has doubled pawns, they have a bad king, and white's really has no development advantage. After knight c6, black has the development advantage. So they really shouldn't take. Instead, what they should do is play knight f3, and after takes, here, if they were to exchange queens like this, again, black would be better, because black has the same amount of development and is up a pawn. White is going to have to spend a move grabbing his pawn back. For example, after knight f6, knight c3, we can keep on threatening the center, and really white has no good way to continue this game. So instead they should play bishop takes c4 because this pawn really isn't going anywhere. And here, so we should make white's job harder here by defending the pawn. And after castles, we should play bishop e6, trying to trade as much pieces as possible because we're up a pawn. And this is kind of a blunder because we are losing a pawn here, but there's really not much we can do about it. And the resulting position is very pleasant for black anyways. So white should really take here. White can also go bishop b5, but then after bishop c5, we're just keeping the pawn. So bishop takes here, and here white has the fork, attacking e6 and b7, and after queen b7, something like this. The position is just very pleasant for black, considering we control more of the center. After e5, we're going to castle our king very nicely. The queen is kind of out of play. We have three pieces developed. White has kind of just one piece developed. So this would be a very pleasant position for black to play. And anyways, what I would expect from most opponents at most levels is to play a move like d takes c4, or d5 is another bad move because after knight f6, white's center is just crawling. This position is actually already -1. Black is completely winning. So that's e4. So next move is after d4, d5, c4, d takes c4 is e3. And so again, if we ever see the e pawn move by white, we already know what to do. We always play e5. And here we already have equality. So the main line continues with bishop takes c4 here. Keep in mind that if they again take this position is supposed to be better for black because we are up on development. White can't castle and they have a doubled pawn. So here black would be better. So bishop takes c4, e takes d4, e takes d4. And here we have what's called a IQP. It's a very classic position, and it's not really that hard to play. All you have to do is bring your pieces to control the d5 square like this. And, well, don't allow the bishop to take here, obviously, but as long as your pieces are controlling d5 square, put a knight on d5, put a bishop on e6, put a pawn on c6, put a bishop on e7, and the position kind of plays itself. A sample continuation might look like bishop d6, knight f3, knight f6, castles, castles, knight c3, and as you can see by the arrows, I just pretty much arrowed the same thing I arrowed earlier. The only thing you got to be keeping aware of is after instead of e takes, they have this move knight f3, which Garry Kasparov actually fell for. Here, black only has one move to stay alive, which is one of the few things that you have to remember in this opening, which is to play bishop b4. Pretty much every other move is losing on the spot. For example, Garry Kasparov played knight f6 against Mamedyarov in a rapid game and lost the game immediately. And take a second to see if you can find the winning move for white in this position. So if you pause the video, the winning move for white is queen b3. And you might say, why is this winning? Because it just attacks this, and black can seemingly defend with queen e7, can't they? But after castles, black is just lost. Because of rook e1 coming on the board, white has way too much development with e takes here, knight c3, knight d5 coming, bishop g5 coming, rook e1 coming. The pressure here, black has no defense here and is completely lost. But after bishop b4 check, the position is completely equal. After bishop d2, takes, knight c6, and this position is completely equal. Black has no problems here, and if anything, people should really prefer black here because the isolated pawn is a weakness, and we've traded some pieces already. So finally, I'm going to go over the main move, which is after d4, d5, d takes c4, knight f3. This is the trickiest move, and if you pay attention to any part of this lesson the most, it should be against knight f3, because the other ones are pretty easy. Against e3 and e4, we play e5, and you can wing it from there. But against knight f3, you can't really wing it because it's a very important part. So the move I recommend here is because they've prevented e5. If we play e5, they can take with a knight, and that really makes no sense. So we're going to play c5 instead. So we have to break at the center as white. We have to go attack them. And instead of doing with e5, this time we're going to switch to c5. And c5 is less good against e3 and e4 because both of those, e4 would allow our opponent to play d5, and e3 would allow our opponent to pretty much ignore the threat because after takes, they have the pawn defended. So here, white has a few moves. So a common move at like the lower levels is d takes c4, but after queen takes d1, king takes d1. Again, black is better here because of the misplaced king, and black is equal on development after knight f6. So another move they have is e4, and this is probably the best move, but not as much played as I would think it would be, because it is the best move according to the engine, but it is the third most popular move. So after e4, you can just take the pawn in the center, and pretty much they're just going to exchange everything, and you just have to develop your pieces and get to this sort of equal endgame where the better player is going to win. And if you can get an equal position at the opening as black, again, you should be very happy because black should technically not be equalizing. And instead, some players think they're playing the right line and play bishop takes e4, but this is actually a mistake now because after knight c6 and a quick e5, black is just completely losing. Sorry, white is just completely losing. Black is up a pawn, it has a connected pass pawn, and this position is just horrible for white. So another move they have is e3, and in this case, you can again go for the IQP position after d takes here. We go e3. Remember, don't be greedy. Don't try to take even more pawns. After takes here, we actually blunder a tactic as white. Sorry, as black, which is to take here, and after takes here, we would lose our queen. So don't be greedy. We just take the pawn, and after they take with the bishop, we develop our piece with e6. Blocking our bishop, yes, but we have to control this d5 square after e takes knight f6. We're controlling the d5 square. Plans include knight bd7, bishop e7, knight b6, possibly bishop d7, bishop c6, knight d5, castles kingside, and slowly we just want to trade pieces here, and we want to consolidate the d5 square so that black is controlling d5 square, and eventually when we trade enough pieces, this pawn will become a liability and black will win the game. So the final move I want to cover is d5, and thank you for making through this portion of the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to click that subscribe button. So the final move is d5, and against d5, what I'm going to recommend you play is e6, so immediately attacking the center. And notice we couldn't have done this against if they played d5 against e5, we would play c6, so we just immediately have to strike at the center with e6, knight c3, knight f6, again attacking the center, and then sample continuation continues like e4, e takes. Black really, white doesn't really want to trade pieces. For example, after d takes, we could take this, but even if we had to take here, white really wants to keep as much pieces on the board as possible because they're going to have the isolated pawn. So e takes, bishop d6, bishop c4, and castles. This position is considered to be around equal because white has this weakness and really doesn't have any attack to show for it. You might want to play h6 soon here because the only real chance of counterplay that black has is that white has with bishop g5, getting rid of this nice defender here. So you might want to play a6, and also they might have knight b5 ideas to attack the bishop, so you might want to play a6 in the future, and after this the position should be completely equal. So that's the end of this video. I highly recommend watching this video maybe twice, or looking over the lines that you might forget, or playing this in your own games, and then if you mess up the line somehow, just checking back to this video. And if you do all of those things, I guarantee you that your win rate against the Queen's Gambit will go up by a lot. So if you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe. Subscribing is the most important. I know a lot of you guys are not subscribed, and you definitely should hit that subscribe button because it costs nothing and it supports me. So if you like this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Be sure to leave your video recommendations down in the comments.